Last spring, a friend of mine texted me a screenshot. A city, a real one, had wired her $12,000 just to move into a neighborhood most people are trying to leave. Not a loan, not a scam, a relocation check. No strings as long as she stayed 2 years. I laughed. Then I found 7 more cities doing the exact same thing in 2026. While most Americans are drowning in rent hikes and bidding wars, these towns are quietly paying strangers to move into the places everyone else abandoned. But here's what nobody tells you. There's always a catch, and some of these catches are worse than the rent you're already paying. Here's what we're doing today. 8 U.S. cities ranked from smallest offer to the one that'll make you want to pack a bag tonight. Cold hard relocation money, forgivable loans, free land, tax abatements, real programs, real deadlines, most expiring by the end of 2026. Some of these towns are dying on paper but thriving underneath. Others are exactly as bad as they look, and I'll tell you which. Stick around because number 1 isn't just paying you to move, it's paying you to stay quiet about why. Quick thing before we count these down. Hit like right now so the algorithm actually shows you the ones near you, because these programs get pulled the second local governments realize outsiders are watching. Subscribe if you want the follow-up video, because 3 of these 8 cities already have waitlists forming. And drop the state you're in down in the comments. I'm going to be checking because number 4 on this list might already be closer to you than you think.
Number 8. Muncie, Indiana. You can get $5,000 wired directly into your account just for signing a 2-year lease in the right zip code. Not a rebate, not a raffle, a straight relocation stipend from the city itself, funded through a Rust Belt revitalization grant most residents don't even know exists. Muncie's population has been sliding since the factories left, and the city knows exactly what that means for property values, tax revenue, and the neighborhoods getting hollowed out block by block. So, instead of waiting for the collapse to finish, they're paying strangers to walk into it early. Median rent here is still under $700. Median home price barely cracks $140,000. On paper, it looks like a steal. But here's what nobody tells you. The stipend only applies to specific census tracts, the ones losing population fastest. That's not an accident. The city isn't spreading you out. It's placing you exactly where the exodus is worst, hoping new bodies slow the bleeding before the numbers get reported to the state. One local put it on Reddit like this: "They're not selling you a house, they're selling you a heartbeat for the census." Crime's mixed depending on the tract, job market's thin outside healthcare and Ball State, but if you can work remote, the math is brutal in your favor. $5,000 covers your first year's rent almost twice over. Picture it. You move in, grant money still sitting in your account, and your new neighbor mentions 3 houses on your street sold for under $20,000 last year. That's not a bargain, that's a warning label with good lighting. And if you think Muncie's quiet, wait until you see what number 7 is offering to keep people from finding out.
Number 7, Danville, Illinois. This one isn't cash up front, it's better and worse. Danville will forgive up to $17,500 of your down payment if you buy a home in one of 11 targeted neighborhoods and stay put for 5 years. Skip out early and you owe every dollar back with interest. On the surface, this looks like the best deal on the list. Median home price sits around $95,000. Combine that with the forgivable loan, and some buyers are walking into home ownership for functionally nothing down. Remote workers are already showing up in local Facebook groups comparing notes like it's a secret club. But here's what nobody tells you. Danville's population has dropped almost 20% since the 1980s, and this program isn't new money. It's recycled federal blight remediation funding, originally meant to demolish empty houses, not fill them with new owners. The city quietly pivoted the grant once officials realized paying people to move in was cheaper than tearing structures down. One resident on a local forum wrote, "They used to bulldoze these blocks, now they bribe you to live on them instead." Crime is elevated in some of the eligible tracts, and job growth outside logistics and warehousing is close to flat. The 5-year residency clause isn't a suggestion, it's enforced through a lien on the property itself. Picture this: you close on a $90,000 house, forgivable loan attached, and your neighbor mentions the house next door was condemned 2 years ago before someone else took the same deal. The block isn't recovering, it's being repopulated on a timer. And if Danville's fine print made you nervous, wait until you see what number 6 is quietly asking people to overlook.
Number 6. Wheeling, West Virginia. This one comes with actual land. Wheeling's Renew Wheeling initiative hands qualifying remote workers a vacant residential lot for $1 plus up to $10,000 toward construction, as long as you break ground within 18 months. It sounds almost too generous, and that's exactly the point. Wheeling's population has fallen by more than half since its industrial peak, and entire streets sit with more empty lots than occupied homes. The city isn't just offering land, it's trying to reverse engineer a neighborhood that no longer technically exists. Here's what nobody tells you. Many of these lots were cleared after decades of abandoned structures were demolished, which means the soil, drainage, and even old foundation debris haven't always been fully remediated. A few buyers have reported unexpected costs once construction crews actually broke ground, costs the dollar lot marketing never mentions up front. One local commented online, "They'll give you the land for free, they just won't tell you what's still buried under it." Job growth outside healthcare and light manufacturing is minimal, and the population decline hasn't stabilized yet, meaning services like schools and transit are still shrinking even as new residents trickle in. Picture this: you're standing on your own dollar lot, permit in hand, and the demolition crew next door is still clearing out the house that used to be there. You're not just building a home, you're building the first new structure on a block that spent a decade disappearing. And if you thought free land was the biggest offer on this list, wait until you see what number 5 is willing to pay just to keep its downtown from going dark completely.
Number 5. Hattiesburg, Mississippi. This is where the offers stop being subtle. Hattiesburg's Downtown Anchor program pays remote workers $10,000 in cash, split over 2 years, specifically to live within a 6-block radius of a downtown corridor that's been hemorrhaging foot traffic since 2019. The city isn't hiding the reason. Storefronts have closed faster than they can be leased, and property tax revenue from that corridor has dropped hard enough to show up in public budget hearings. So instead of subsidizing businesses that keep failing, the city flipped the strategy. Pay people to simply exist there and hope demand for coffee shops and dry cleaners follows the rooftops. Here's what nobody tells you. The stipend is contingent on quarterly proof of residency, meaning the city is actively monitoring who stays and who quietly moves out once the check clears. Several recipients have described it less like a relocation grant and more like a probationary residency. One participant wrote online, "It's not free money, it's rent with a curfew." Crime downtown skews higher than the surrounding suburbs, and the job market outside of the university and healthcare sector remains thin. Still, for a fully remote worker, $10,000 against a sub-$1,000 average rent is hard to argue with on paper. Picture this. You're sipping coffee on a Tuesday morning, one of maybe 6 people on a block built for 600, watching a city intern photograph your porch for a quarterly compliance report. You didn't just move here, you became a data point in someone else's recovery plan. And if you think that's invasive, wait until you see what number 4 is requiring people to hand over.
Number 4, Harmony, Minnesota. This one asks for something most of these programs don't: your privacy. Harmony's relocation package offers $12,000 in cash plus a fully forgivable business microloan, but only if you agree to let the city use your move as a public case study, complete with your name, your job, and your reason for leaving your old city published in state economic development materials. On paper, this is one of the strongest financial offers on the list. Population here is under 1,000. Cost of living is nearly 30% below the national average, and the community actively wants remote workers to anchor its shrinking tax base. Here's what nobody tells you. Several past participants say the case study clause turned into ongoing media requests long after the money was spent, with local and state officials treating new residents like recurring proof of concept rather than private citizens. One transplant put it bluntly online, "I didn't move to Harmony, I moved into a press release." Job opportunities outside agriculture and small manufacturing remain scarce, and winters here are long enough to test anyone's resolve. But the math is aggressive. $12,000 in a town where a full house can run under $120,000 changes the calculation fast.
Picture this. You're unpacking boxes in your new driveway, and a reporter from the state's Economic Development Office is already parked outside, ready to ask how it feels to be the reason this town might survive another decade. And if you think that trade-off is uncomfortable, wait until you see what number 3 is quietly asking people to give up in exchange for far more money.
Number 3, Chester, Pennsylvania. The number jumps hard here. Chester's New Roots initiative pays qualifying remote workers up to $20,000, but the fine print is the steepest yet. Recipients must waive the right to challenge future zoning or development decisions made in their neighborhood for a period of 10 years. That's not a typo. In exchange for the largest cash offer so far, new residents sign away their voice in exactly the kind of local decisions that shape property values, school funding, and infrastructure investment down the road. Chester has one of the highest poverty rates in the state, and city officials have been open that this program exists to stabilize tax revenue ahead of a wave of planned redevelopment. Translation, they want new residents in place before the zoning fights start, not during them. One resident wrote online, "They're not buying houses, they're buying silence." Crime rates here remain a real concern, and the job market outside Philadelphia commuters is limited. But $20,000 is $20,000, and for some remote workers, that waiver feels like a fair trade for a fresh start with real money behind it. Picture this. You're standing at your first neighborhood meeting watching a rezoning proposal get discussed 2 seats away and realizing you signed away your right to object to it before you even unpacked your kitchen boxes. The money's real, so is what you gave up for it. And if you think that's the biggest ask on this list, wait until you see what number 2 is doing to entire blocks at once.
Number 2, Gary, Indiana. This is where individual offers stop and block-level strategy begins. Gary's cluster repopulation program doesn't pay one household to move, it pays groups. If 5 or more remote working households relocate to the same city block within a 6-month window, each household receives $15,000. Plus, the city fast-tracks utility restoration and street repair for that block specifically. Gary has lost more than half its population since 1960, and entire sections of the city have been functionally offline for years. No working streetlights, no regular trash pickup, water lines nobody's maintained. This program exists because the city can't justify fixing infrastructure for 2 or 3 occupied houses on a block. It can justify fixing it for 5. Here's what nobody tells you. If your cluster falls apart, if even one household backs out before the 6-month window closes, every remaining household's payment gets recalculated downward, sometimes by thousands of dollars. Your neighbor's stability now directly affects your bank account. One participant described it online as moving in with strangers you've never met, except the strangers are your entire block, and if one of them panics, everybody loses money. Job growth remains one of the weakest in the region, and safety concerns are real in several eligible tracts. But $15,000 per household, multiplied across a cluster, has turned this into the most discussed program in remote work relocation forums. Picture this. You're in a group chat with 4 strangers, watching in real time as someone considers backing out and doing the math on how much money you're all about to lose together. And number 1 isn't offering money at all. It's offering something almost nobody expected.
Number 1, Cairo, Illinois. No cash, no forgivable loan. Cairo offers something almost no city on this list can. Outright deeded ownership of an existing home, free, if you commit to 5 years of residency and basic upkeep. Cairo has lost over 80% of its population since 1950. Entire streets have been condemned and cleared. The city isn't trying to slow decline anymore. It's trying to prevent total dissolution. Free deeds aren't generosity. They're survival math. A town needs a minimum population to keep its charter, its school district, its emergency services funded. Cairo is buying time with property it can no longer sell. Here's what nobody tells you. Several of these homes require tens of thousands in repairs the deed doesn't cover, and insurance carriers have started refusing new policies in parts of town outright. Free isn't the same as affordable. Now, the bonus insight most real estate creators won't say out loud. These programs aren't random. They cluster in cities that lost a single major employer or industry within the last 15 years, not cities that were always poor. That distinction matters because recovery patterns differ completely.
A town that collapsed fast from one blow can rebound fast if new industry lands. A town poor for generations usually can't. So if you're chasing these deals, don't just check the price, check what left and whether anything's moving in to replace it. That's the difference between a hidden opportunity and a hole with a welcome mat. That's the list. Comment your city and I'll tell you if there's a program you don't know about yet. If this saved you from overpaying for a hot market nobody vetted, subscribe. I track these relocation programs monthly, and half of them vanish from government sites within weeks of going viral. Like this video so it reaches someone drowning in rent right now, and comment the state you're watching from. I'm building the next list from those replies, and I read every one. These deals aren't rumors. They're real, they're time-limited, and most people will never hear about them until it's too late to apply.